I certainly took a little bit longer than I thought I would, but such is life. I have more builds, however, but before we get into them, this build is not entirely mine. This man put together a build that I thought, I picked it up, did a little bit of switching around, and was thoroughly impressed with what I found. So I would like to talk about it because this is, I think, the best utility of Solar Hunter's kit that I have ever seen. With that said, Tommy's Matchbook is a solar exotic auto rifle from Season of the Worthy. What it does is basically the longer you shoot, it starts taking health and starts scorching things on impact with a 25% damage bonus. Loosely 25%. I don't actually know the numbers. However, it is just a very shoot the gun type weapon. It's also in combination of like perks. It's if Skyburner's Oath and Touch of Malice had a child and it was an auto rifle. Oh, that's what this gun is summed up to be. Wormhusk Crown is the other part of this build, and it's ultimately not a very interesting exotic. It is just dodging gives you a small health boost. That's it. It's ultimately equivalent to recuperation in its nature, but it's a very simple exotic. But we can get into the weeds here. Put on Marksman's Dodge to avoid having to reload with zero reload speed. Melee doesn't really matter. Grenade might matter as it stands right here, as you see this build. It does matter, but we'll get into how it can't. Knock him down and On Your Mark are really just here for the silly of it. This is for infinite knife loop. This is for extra reload speed. I just don't suggest Gunpowder Gamble because Gunpowder Gamble is interfering with how Tommy's Matchbook plays, which is not something I like to do. But these fragments are in order of most valuable to least valuable, if you ask me. So Ember of Singeing is by far the most valuable fragment in this build. It effectively says, all right, Tommy's is going to fuel your class ability. It is just funneling all of the Scorch energy into your class ability, which is pretty damn good because it turns your Wormhusk cooldown from 18 seconds or probably more to much, much less. I think like 5 to 10 seconds. It's surprisingly quick. However, there will be oftentimes where you find you are not without a dodge. So feel free to just use them mercilessly because they will be coming back as long as you're shooting Tommies with when it gets to that scorch state. Ember of Empyrean is just for the restoration loop, so throw down a healing grenade, just start shooting the gun. You just keep rolling on restoration, and it negates the amount of health taken by Tommy's matchbook, for the most part. Sometimes it can get low, and that's when you start using Wormhusk. Ember of Ashes is really just for majors and champions. So Ember of Ashes just makes it so you ignite quicker with Tommy's matchbook when you're shooting at things. I just use it simply for that fact, but it's also just quite handy for like the general utility. If you're using a normal grenade, I personally enjoy this. Torches is just for the self-fulfilling prophecy of knock them down, throw a knife, get radiant, get a knife back. Ember of Eruption is the most replaceable here and is just there for the increased AoE. Just shoot a champion and everything around it dies type thing. Ultimately, Solace, Blistering, Char, your options are pretty vast. Uh, Basically anything works. But I said there was a second way to build this, and I wasn't entirely lying. This is the other way I would build it, where Ember of Searing is giving you fire sprites. Your fire sprites have restoration thanks to Mercy, and you can just chain that with Empyrean. Now, of course, I would recommend maybe switching one of these for Solus, but it's also really difficult because you are contemplating basically torches and singeing, and both of them are really, really valuable. So I don't know. That's a moral quandary for you to discover and not me. Of which one do you value more? Your dodge being back and having constant health, or having constant melees? Otherwise, let's get into mods. Mods are really simple, and I'm just gonna get straight to the point. Boots and cloak are the only things that realistically matter. Solar weapon surges are solar weapon surges. It's 17% on top of whatever you already have for a damage bonus from Radiant and Ember of or Tommy's matchbook itself. Apologies. Better Already is important for this piece. So Powerful Attraction is a highly underrated mod, and considering we're focusing mostly on class ability stuff, it's pretty valuable. But getting down here, there was a PvP trick that I was taught a long time ago that was basically, hey, if you're running around with a high orb yielding build, run Recoup and Better Already, and you'll have instant health regen and a continuous health regen. That's basically what we're doing here. Wormhusk is our equivalent Recoup, Better Already is our equivalent regen. So we're basically dodging and it's pulling the orbs to us, granting us instant health and a constant regen. Reaper is just there because we're using on a class ability. Ultimately, if you want to run Util Kickstart or Time Dilation, I will not fight you on that because I respect both of them, and I was very tempted to just stay on Time Dilation for this build. But I chose Reaper because it seemed a little bit more helpful. The arms are mostly melee focused things. If you run like really heavy into melee, run heavy handed. If you run grenade stuff, feel free to run momentum transfer or bolstering or even firepower. Um, but like, it's very dependent on how you play this and what you want to use. Helmet doesn't really matter. You can run a hands-on, Ashes, Dynamo. I run double harmonics just because it gives me an increase in super energy when picking up an orb generated by Tommy's. So just for the handiness of it. But I can realistically run a scout and then run finder scout single harmonic. It doesn't really matter. But that is basically the build. However, reminder, not my build. This man's build. And a damn good one at that. That's all I have. Have a good one. I'll try and get build videos out sooner rather than later. Sorry. All right. Bye.